In the past couple topics, we talked about climate change, and we're going to talk about another impact of climate change, and this is the warming of the Earth's oceans. So we know that since the Industrial Revolution, humans have been adding vast amounts of greenhouse gases to the atmosphere. And that has resulted in climate change. It has resulted in an increase in global temperature. It had also resulted in the warming of the oceans. If we look at this graph in the lower left-hand corner, this graph shows the heat content of the ocean at a variety of depths. We can see the dotted line represents the average temperature, heat content of the ocean, the 1993 average. What we can see is that over time, in the last 25 years, we've seen this increase in the heat content of the oceans. This is more pronounced at the lower depths, closer to the surface. We can see that's these red lines, but the entire ocean surface has warmed. And so what impacts does that have on natural ecosystems, on humans, on coastal communities? Well, there's several things that we need to talk about. One is that tropical storms, hurricanes, typhoons, the energy that those large storms use, they derive their energy from heat in the ocean. So as the heat content of the oceans increases, the intensity of these major storms also increases. So we have more intense storms, more category 3 and 4 and 5 hurricanes. So we can see that shown in this graph to the right. We can see general periodic fluctuations in the average number of these named tropical storms. But if we look since the 1990 or so, we can see a rapid increase in these named storms over the last 25 years or so. So that provides a serious impact. Obviously, these storms can damage ecosystems. They also have major impacts on communities, human communities, damage to storms, flooding, death, disruption of infrastructure. All of those things come about when we have these storms becoming more common and these storms becoming more intense. We also talked previously that as the oceans warm, they expand, and that leads to rising sea level, which has impacts on ecosystems, coastal communities that we already spoke about. Also, as the oceans warm, that alters the habitat, alters abiotic conditions in the oceans. It changes metabolism of marine organisms. Warmer waters increase metabolism. As we've talked about previously, warm water holds less oxygen. It can interfere with seasonal reproduction in marine species. So those are some of the impacts. Another major impact is in coral bleaching. So coral reefs are ecosystems which are incredibly diverse. They are found throughout the oceans, and especially in the shallower parts of the ocean, and sometimes in large areas that we call reefs. And these coral provide habitat, mating, spawning areas for many different types of marine organisms, but they are in serious danger. Okay. As the oceans warm, the coral organisms can be pushed beyond their range of tolerance. We can see in these areas where we look at the Great Barrier Reef, a huge coral reef, we see that the temperature has been increasing steadily since 1900. This is what bleached coral looks like. And we've talked about this previously, when the symbiotic relationship between the coral animal and its symbiotic algae breaks down. When those algae are stressed, when conditions are pushed beyond the range of tolerance, they basically abandon the coral organism, and that basically kills the coral. And these bleached coral are no longer productive and no longer really able to survive. And so we can see that change in this diagram. This map of the world's oceans shows, it's a little bit hard to see, yeah, now I can see it. So this shows sort of which parts of the ocean are coral are threatened in different ways. So there's areas where there's a watch that conditions may lead to coral bleaching in these lighter colored yellow and orange areas. But then we see the majority of the Earth's oceans are in these darker red areas. That is as a warning that coral in these areas are being pushed beyond the possibility of them surviving. So that's large areas of the ocean that are under these serious threats to the coral.